Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. All right, I finally did it. I finished The Last Argument of Kings, the third book in the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. So, we're going to talk about this today. I'm going to set this right here first. I was able to start Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Of course, it's the second in the duology that started with Six of Crows. It also is in the, what are they calling it? The Grisha-verse world. There was a trilogy before the Six of Crows. I really enjoyed Six of Crows. It is a YA novel. So this was one of the things that I really wanted to get finished this year. And I've started it. Not too far into it. What am I at here? 50 pages, chapter 4. So we'll finish that up this year. Awesome. Next, I have started Babylon's Ashes. This is book 6 in the Expanse series. Where am I here? I'm at page 60, chapter 6. These books now are starting, this is my 6th book so far in this series, so I pretty much got this style down, and these are pretty easy reads for me. I'm really glad that I started this year, and I will be finishing it. 3 more books after this, and of course along with this is this is Memories Legion. It has short stories that kind of coincide with the different seasons of the book or the TV series. And we will be reading Strange Dogs with this one. So this will be finished this year by the end of December, and I'm excited about that. Now, the only book that I'm not going to get to start is the Robin Hobbs. I will get to it next year. It's going to be the only thing that I set out at the beginning of the year to read that I'm not going to, unfortunately, be able to finish. All right, so let's get to Last Argument of Kings, and you see I got a stack of books here. I don't think that I can really talk about this book without discussing the whole trilogy, the whole First Law Trilogy. So I'm going to be referring to the other books in this trilogy, and then of course we're going to talk about the more recent trilogy that Joe Abercrombie has put out in this universe. But let's get some of the numbers out of the way. Now first, I'm going to do this a little bit different than I normally do. This book was published originally in March of 2008. So we're looking at, like 14 years since this, and this is the third book, of course, in the trilogy. And my version has 603 pages. So, it is the biggest of the 3. Now, I normally go into the numbers from Goodreads just to give you an idea. So I'm going to start, though, just to give you an idea with The Blade itself. So, of course, this was the first book in the trilogy. This is Joe Abercrombie's first released novel. Now, on Goodreads, The Blade itself has 208,859 ratings. The Goodreads rating right now is at 4.19. All right, so I gave this book a 2. You all know, if you've watched my video on this book, I particularly did not like this book very much. But I heard from enough people that said, push through book 1, we understand. Get into book 2. Once you get through book 2, book 3 is going to be totally awesome, and it's going to wrap everything up, and you'll get it all and see why this is an amazing series. And Joe Abercrombie is the next greatest fantasy author on the planet. All right, so I continued. Now remember, almost 209,000 ratings for this first novel. Awesome. So then you go into the second one, Before They Are Hanged. Before They Are Hanged has 145,475 ratings. You're talking 60-some thousand less ratings. And now, of course, everybody that reads these books they all don't go on Goodreads and put ratings up. Even a lot of people that, like me, that use Goodreads more as like, just to keep track of what books I've read in the year, don't do ratings. But to lose 60,000 ratings between the first book and the second book, I think that tells you something. However, the Goodreads rating for this book is 4.33. So, a little bit higher than what the overall rating for The Blade itself was. So people apparently liked the book better than the first book, but there wasn't as many ratings, I believe, because just not as many people read it. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just, using the numbers. So then we go on to the third book, Last Argument of Kings. So, Last Argument of Kings has 135,418 ratings and currently has a Goodreads rating of 4.32. So just barely less than Before They Are Hanged overall ratings, but another 10,000 less ratings than the second book, Before They Are Hanged. So I don't think as many people have continued with this novel. Now, again, this was published in March of 2008. It's, like I said, about 14 years old, and I never even heard of this author or this book series until about 2 years ago when I really started watching booktubers, and I was hearing more and more about this dude. And I'll be honest, I love the covers. I think this color scheme, this white, and this art style here is really interesting. I think Orbit's owning the world right now. I mean, almost every book I get now is Orbit, and that's cool. All right, so let's talk about this novel. Again, I'm gonna have to kind of talk about the whole series. All right, so I'm gonna keep using these props. In The Blade itself, you have an introduction. Now, this trilogy is the quintessential trilogy. It is a beginning in book 1, a middle, book 2, and an end, book 3. The beginning is an intro. The whole book, we're talking 500 and some pages here. What is it? Come on, Ted. 501 pages. So it's a big book. You get it into 500 pages, you're talking a big book. 501, his first novel. And if you watch my review, nothing happens. It is just an intro. You're just being introduced to the different characters in this novel and kind of the world, but I thought it was pretty poorly done. Yeah, he's getting his writing chops down. He's got this idea for this cool story. This book goes nowhere, has no plot that I could discern anyways. But then again, I listened. Just, keep reading. So I did. Intro. Pure and simple. That's all this book is. Second, Before They Are Hanged. I'm going to tell you, this is the middle portion of this story arc. And for me, it's the best. I gave this 4. I gave Blade itself a 2 rating. I gave this a 4. And Last Argument of Kings, I gave a 3. So, I gave it less. This is my favorite book of the series. I'm going to tell you right now. It's more of the classic fantasy style novel. It's a quest. You go on a quest. You develop the characters from the first book a little bit more. Not a lot, but a little bit. You do meet some other characters along the way, so now they've joined in. And some of them get developed a little bit. The plot gets developed a little bit. Not great, but I much more preferred this book to the first book, Blade itself, for sure. And I think I will admit too, I listened to the Blade itself, and I just didn't dig it at all. There were a lot of problems with the Blade itself. He has a problem throughout all these books with repeating himself. He gets like on an idea or a sentence, and he will use it over and over and over, and it's too repetitive. I'm like, come on, dude, get on to something else. Specifically, he did it again in Last Argument of Kings. This one was less so. Again, it was a quest. It was cool. You had these band of people, and they started splitting off from the first book and doing their own things. So you had some development. I enjoyed this book a lot. Again, it's my favorite. Then you get to Last Argument of Kings, the final book in the trilogy, and it is the end. This is the end part. Beginning, middle, end. All right, so let's talk about it. I gave it a 3 rating because it's an entertaining book. It's definitely a decent book. And what I really appreciate about this book and the whole series is you can see how he has grown as a writer. Very visceral and just fast-paced and kind of disjointed in the first novel. More well-rounded and developed in the second one, and the writing is outstanding in this one. He's come to be an author. I mean, who am I to say this, right? Right, Tad, whatever. But you can see how he grows as an author from the first book to the third book, which I love. I definitely like. There are ideas and sentences and paragraphs and descriptions in this book that are brilliant and beautiful and poignant. Things that you may remember from this book. But then there's a lot of repetition, a lot of repeating same things over. Everyone that gets cut by a blade, their head is hanging by the gristle of the muscle. Happens like 6 times. My arm got cut by a sword, and it's hanging by the gristle of the muscle. Just come up with something different, dude. That's all I'm saying. I'm just using that as an example. There's more here. Now, the problem with this book is I'm curious if he maybe didn't have the ending fully fleshed out by the time he got here to this third book. Because you get to, this book is 603 pages. You get to the last 200 pages, and it's a rush, I feel. There is a twist in the novel, so that's kind of cool. And I will admit that although I didn't blatantly see it coming, which you can with some novelists, once it happened, you smile and you go, oh, okay, yep, I saw it, yep. I didn't see it coming, but now that everything fits, it after you see it, it's obvious that you were being brought to this point. So it was kind of satisfying. I mean, not like, holy crap, what just happened kind of twist, but a twist where you go, oh, yes, I see. And that's kind of cool. I like that. But, again, getting down to the last 200 pages of this novel, and not up to this point, not much has happened again. I mean, it's kind of the same old, and don't get me wrong, I like a slow burn. A slow burn is cool, but it is so delineated in these books. Again, a beginning, a middle, and an end. I would have liked to see it more rounded, I guess. Maybe I'm not coming across how I want to describe it, but it was very delineated that, that was the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end. And hold on, strap on. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I do think, though, that there is a MacGuffin in this. That's why I'm saying I don't think if he really had it fleshed out how he wanted to end. Baez is, in my opinion, a MacGuffin. And it kind of ruins the ending for me. I was not impressed with the ending. The last 200 pages, I think, could have been wrapped up a lot more succinctly. There was even a point where I was like, what the hell is going... This is ridiculous. And I hate that when I've read, 1,000, 2,000 pages, however many pages, almost 2,000 pages of a series, and I'm like, oh, come on. He just, it was info dump. It was a MacGuffin. It was like, I need something to wrap this up, and this is how it's going to end. Boom, boom, boom. End. He does try to wrap, like, each character up. I don't think successfully. The main problem I have with this book, the series, through the whole series, is it's a slow burn through the whole series. I don't mind the beginning being slow, and then you ramp and you ramp and you ramp, and the end is, awesome. No, for me anyways, not with this series. The characters. I've heard people say that the characters are great because they're so individualized that you know exactly who that character is right when they first start talking. You know who they are. Well, I think the problem with it is they're too cookie cutter. They're too cardboard. They don't grow. I love seeing, a character start in a place and grow through a novel, and at the end, they've come out a different person. This does not happen in this book. And I've read some reviews of this saying that was his intention. The grim dark is, I thought it was, because it's so visceral and there's blood splatter and killing and it's gross, and he gets really down and dirty, with it. No, the grim is nothing changes. No one gets better. No one improves. The world doesn't get better. No matter what you do, it's not going to matter. That's the grim part of it. And I wonder if that's because these characters were written that way and the book was written that way because he didn't know how to do it any other way. I don't know. Am I being a jerk for saying? There's no redeeming value in almost any of these characters. The biggest growth of a character is Giselle, for sure, I think. Everyone talks about Standan Glokta as being their favorite character. I don't know why. He's horrible. He's a piece of crap. He was at the beginning of the book. He is at the end of the book. He doesn't change at all. I think people like him because he has this inner monologue going in his brain all the time. So every time he's with somebody and it's a scene with Glocka, you're hearing his internal monologue. And I think that was cool for people, I guess. That made him feel like he was a best character. It wasn't my favorite character. I'll tell you, Pharaoh was my favorite character. I would have liked to spend a lot more time with her. I would have liked to see what happens with her. She kind of just gets pushed to the side at the end. I don't know. I'm not saying I disliked the trilogy. I'm glad I read it. I think if you are a fantasy fan, yes, this is a must. You got to read this. It's definitely different than your standard classic fantasy. But I think there's a reason classic fantasy is so awesome, because you have redeeming value in your characters. You see a growth. You do have a bad and a good. I don't see that there's anything wrong with that. These people are just all morally gray, and that's fine. That might be more realistic. But one of the reasons you love fantasy is because it's a fantasy. That's the word, is fantasy, not reality. But again, I'm not slamming it. Overall, I'm glad I read the trilogy. I am going to. I don't feel any compunction to read the 3 standalone books right now in this world. If there's a specific reason y'all feel like I really should read those 3 novels next, please let me know. I do have the short story compilation on Audible, so I will be listening to that. But I really, though, think that I just want to go ahead and get into this next newer trilogy that just came out. A Little Hatred is book 1. It says The Age of Madness, and then you have The Trouble with Peace is book 2, and then The Wisdom of Crowds is book 3. So I think I'm going to move on to these next this year coming. I have them all in hardback. They're all certified authentic. They're all signed. You can see that. So I think I'm going to move ahead with these and skip those 3, individual novels, standalone novels. Maybe I'll go back to them. Who knows? But not my favorite, fantasy series trilogy I've ever read. Not horrible. No, I'm not saying that. Even though I didn't like the first book at all, it's serviceable, and I think it is important. Back in 2008, when these books were written, nobody had, I think, done fantasy like this, and I think it's a very important in the climate that we read fantasy now. John Gwynne and other things I've read, I see it, but I do just want a little bit more. I don't know, maybe good versus evil. Maybe somebody, ending up with a decent life. It's kind of funny. Some people have bashed this. I kind of liked it. The last scene, okay, basically is a repeat of the very first scene in the first book. So it all comes full circle. And I think just what he's trying to say is things change, but stay the same. You just are destined to repeat yourself over and over. Hopefully that's what he meant with this book and with these books. And it wasn't just that I've got cardboard characters and I'm going to put them through a bunch of shit, and at the end, nothing's going to change. And it's just going to be dour and grim. I don't know. But that's my take on the First Law Trilogy. If you find any entertaining value in my videos, please like, subscribe, and as I always say, I love the comments. I'm getting more and more comments. I'm starting to meet more booktubers in the community. So that's awesome, and hopefully the channel will keep growing. Yeah, that's it. I hope you all have a great Christmas holiday, however you do it. I have my Sithmas Christmas shirt on. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.